We all know the story. The multiverse had been born, there was a sentience at the core, and it wanted to explore. It wanted to know more about this multiverse that it found itself inside of, and to do so it created an astral being that had the job to go across the multiverse and explore. Look at this new realm of life that existed. And it created this astral being, and that astral being went around exploring, making contact with civilizations, and realizing that life was sort of in vain, that everything died in the meantime. And as this exploration went on, it became a bit more crazier, became a bit more eviler, maybe to make its mark on the world, to prove that it exists. The only thing it can do is accelerate the entropy of life. And the sentient core of the universe could only watch on in terror as its creation began to destroy everything around it. And that astral being's name was Unicron. Hey, what's up everybody? Commander Radix here, bringing you another video, and today I want to talk to you about the events of a certain web manga that was published by Takara Tomy, written by Hayato Sakamoto? Yes, Hayato Sakamoto. This two-part series is called The End of the G1 Universe. Intriguing. But the reason I'm talking about this story is because it has a lot of implications for how the multiverse story of Transformers could end. How Transformers as a whole could end. Now, what are you talking about, Radix? What is this whole multiversal story? Well, I think most people on this channel know that Transformers, up until about 2015-ish, was all contained in one multiverse. And then by around 2015, there's an event called the Shroud, which splits the multiverse. It takes the multiversal singularities like Primus and Unicron and shatters them to different universes. They're no longer singularities, same with the 13. And that multiversal travel becomes more difficult than it used to be. And it also gives Hasbro the freedom to create new Transformers continuities without having to follow previously established multiversal lore. You already saw with Transformers Animated, they were trying to take a break from that, and the aligned continuity was originally outside the multiverse as a whole until it became dragged back in. And Hasbro's realizing that, it's not good enough to create a universe that doesn't reference the multiverse. The multiverse itself has to stop existing as a plot point, as a thing that exists in the lore of Transformers. And because of that, you have the Shroud, which is complicated. I've made like 2 videos on the subject, trying to explain the intricacies and how the Shroud works, how some continuities once had a beginning that started with the Shroud, but before the Shroud in the multiverse, but then the Shroud happens, and then there are some characteristics it still has in common with other universes, but other characteristics can suddenly become different than what it was before in the established timeline of that specific universe. It's all complicated. Please watch my videos on the Shroud and multiversal singularities if you want to know the details. I think most people on my channel know what the Shroud is, though. But with that, Hasbro and related fiction started focusing on telling stories that aren't in the multiverse, that could do their own things with Primus, Unicron, the 13, all that stuff. You have Cyberverse, you have IDW 2, you have the Bumblebee movie, you have Transformers The Last Night, you get the War for Cybertron trilogy. All of these are post-Shroud pieces of work that are either completely separated from the multiverse or might have had a common point within the multiverse, but now that the Shroud has happened, it can diverge from what has already been established in its own lore. But that left a lot of people who are into the deeper multiverse story kind of like, okay, we're just not getting a conclusion to this story that started way back in 1984. That's sort of anticlimactic. That's sort of not fun. And the question is always, what will happen to the multiverse? And ladies and gentlemen, In the end of the G1 Universe manga, I think we have our answer of what the final point in the multiversal timeline will look like. Let's talk about Unicron. Yes, there was multiversal singularities, including Unicron, and then with the Shroud, Unicron became separated across across universes, detached, can have his own identity, and also weaker than what Unicron used to be, at least the multiversal singular Unicron. The most powerful beings in the multiverse before the Shroud were the One, Unicron, Primus, those guys. But once the Shroud fell, they lost their powers, their multiversal scale powers. And now it seems like there's not enough powerful characters enough to bring the multiverse back together. Except there is one character in the entire multiverse that could fix this. It's just you wouldn't expect that character to fix things. And that character is Unicron. Now hold on, Commander Radix, you just told me that Unicron lost his powers. He's not powerful enough to have that sway on the multiverse, and that's true for the multiversal singular Unicron. You see, there are Unicrons, even before the Shroud happened, that are not part of the multiversal singular Unicron. There are Unicrons that are reflections of that original Unicron, Unicrons that are pretty much almost as powerful as that original Unicron, but they are not that original Unicron. And specifically, we're thinking about Primacronian Unicrons. Primacronian, having been created by Primacron. And there are two main Unicrons that were created by Primacron. The Unicron of the US G1 cartoon continuity and the Japanese G1 cartoon continuity. Now, honestly, US G1 Unicron, a cartoon Unicron, really doesn't seem to be that powerful. He gets defeated. He pretty much loses. There's some implications in some Beast Wars comics that he might be as powerful as the multiversal singular Unicron, but we don't get really anything solid, unlike Japanese G1 Unicron, who we see have multiversal powers. He can call on people throughout the multiverse. He is pretty much as powerful as multiversal singular Unicron. Here's the thing, when the Shroud happens, Japanese G1 cartoon Unicron is not a multiversal singular Unicron, which means while the multiversal singularity Unicron broke apart and became, just a big bad Unicron, but not like a multiversal god type character, G1 Japanese cartoon Unicron is still powerful. With the Shroud, G1 cartoon Japanese Primacronian Unicron might have become the most powerful character in the entire former multiverse. Which takes us to the end of the G1 Universe manga. It takes place hundreds of thousands of years into the future in the Japanese G1 cartoon timeline. This is probably the furthest into the future any piece of Transformers media has taken us. And the universe is basically about to experience a heat death. Everywhere across the universe, there is no more energy. Everything is about to die, the planets are about to fall apart, there is no hope. But we have one Maximal named Blue Bolt, who basically the entire fate of the universe falls on Blue Bolt's hands. And Blue Bolt has a plan, and that is to take the long dead body of Leo Prime. Now, it's important to note that it's not Lio Convoy, it's a long story. Lio Convoy jumped universes into the Axiom Nexus, changed his name to Leo Prime, then went to the Union Cluster, and then went into the Legends universe. It's a complicated story. Just know that that is Lio Convoy. His name at this point in time is Leo Prime, and he's also changed back into his cartoon body for some reason, but he's dead. Leo Prime is dead. And it's implied that he's been dead for a long while. But he has gone down in history as one of the greatest Cybertronian warriors of all time. And Blue Bolt wants to use the dead body of Leo Prime and to revive him to bring back a great hero who could try to solve the heat death of the universe. So Blue Bolt takes Leo Prime to Gaia, to Earth. Now, for those of you who know your Transformers lore, You know that in Transformers the Unicron. In Transformers the movie, Unicron freaking dies. He blows up. But before he blows up, he sends out all this blue energy out into space. This is Anglemois energy. It's sort of dark energy. It's sort of a negative, an inverse of Primus's energy. It's the purest energy from the One. It's a big deal. But Anglemois energy usually has, in this context, the essence of Unicron. After Transformers the movie, Anglemois energy gets spread across the universe, especially on planet Earth. And there's a whole plot point about some servants of Unicron trying to gather the Anglemois energy on Earth to revive Unicron. But the KISS players stop them, of all people. And then Primus locks away the Anglemois energy into the core of the Earth and creates Brave Maximus to guard the Anglemois energy. But after, I think, 2007, Brave Maximus is going to leave Earth, which means Earth just has Unicron energy inside of it. And that, of course, becomes a plot point for Beast Wars Neo and Beast Wars 2nd, where it's all about gathering the Anglemois energy to revive Unicron, blah, 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 blah. At the conclusion of Beast Wars 2nd, the Anglemois energy leaves Earth, now called Gaia, because this is hundreds of years into the future. Humanity is no longer living on Earth, partially because the Anglemois energy has basically tainted Earth and poisoned it. And there's the big conclusion of Beast Wars 2nd has most of the Anglemois energy leave the Earth, but some of it does get stopped by the Moon. So there is very small trace elements of Unicron's Anglemois energy still stuck on the Earth. Flash forward to tens of thousands of years later, and we have Blue Bolt taking Leo Prime's body to Gaia, aka Earth, and trying to revive him using the Anglemois energy on Earth. And if you read the manga, that attracts the attention of Untight, who wants to eat. He's a cannibal who was created by Unicron a long time ago, and he's living on Earth because there are so many dead Transformer bodies on Earth since there's been a whole series of battles being fought there. He also has the ability to revive the dead for some reason. And Untight comes and says, no, I'm going to eat Leo Prime's body, but it's too late. Bluebird revives Leo Prime using magical emblems, or the emblems of the 13, which is very interesting because the 13 are a multiversal concept. But because the Anglemois energy has Unicron's essence in it, what you have is the revival of Leo Prime in Leo Prime's body, but the person in the driver's seat isn't Leo Prime. It's Japanese G1 cartoon Unicron's consciousness that is controlling Leo Prime. But as we later see, even though Unicron wants to destroy and is angry, and, is evil, he beats the crap out of Untight, there's something that's stopping Unicron from going full Unicron, and that is the fact that Leo Prime has an Energon matrix. This is a thing that was created by humans and Autobots working together a long time ago. But it's basically a matrix that was selected by Primus to give to Leo Prime a long time ago. Even though it's an Autobot-human joint creation, Primus still decides what Autobots get the Energon Matrix, so it has that bit of Primus's essence in it as well, which means it's also effective against Unicron. And basically, the implication is Leo Prime is still in there. He is still in his Energon Matrix, which also would have Primus's essence as well. And they can use that matrix to sort of keep Unicron in check, to prevent Unicron from going too crazy, too evil. And that's a very interesting phenomenon. In this character, which is really an amalgamation, a combination between Unicron and Leo Prime, as well as Primus a little bit, all in one body, picks the name of Dark Amber Leo Prime, which is a mouthful. But when we see Dark Amber Leo Prime come about, we see that he doesn't really worry about that whole energy crisis because he is Unicron. He can literally just eat the dirt and get power. He can eat creation. He can eat anything and get power. So he doesn't have to worry about the energy crisis. So he's filled up. He has energy while everyone else is kind of dying. And Bluebird explains to Unicron, to Dark Amber Leo Prime, that the Earth is about to explode, it has no more energy, it can't hold itself together, and Unicron, who has been laying in dormant slumber in Earth for tens of thousands of years. I'm not even sure he was even trapped in his asteroid body for that long. He's grown to have a sort of attachment to Earth. And he decides that he is not going to let Earth die because he has that attachment to it. He's been trapped in Earth for so long, he has that attachment to it. He also has Leo Prime and presumably Primus in him, trying to sort of help guide him. And what Unicron does is he uses his power for good. He revives Earth. He gives it energy. You know, he's filled with energy because all he needs to do to get energy is to eat dirt. That's the power of this Unicron god guy. Amazing. Now, Unicron using his powers, or using Unicron's powers to create something for good, has been explored before. It's been explored in Transformers Energon, when Alpha Q uses Unicron's powers to revive all the planets he's eaten before. So the idea that Unicron doesn't just destroy, but he can create life, like good, powerful life, you know, not just like crazy people like Galvatron, that's been explored before, and now we're using that more in this manga. Unicron, or more accurately, Dark Amber Leo Prime, brings Earth back to life. And then Unicron just decides, alright, let's go revive the entire universe. And they get into a very comedically small ship and they just go out, and they are going out reviving the world. This is in the far, far future. All the humans we know, all the Transformers we know, they're dead, they're gone. It's just Dark Amber Leo Prime, Blue Bolt, and Untight going around reviving the universe. Now that is very interesting because that Unicron is the most powerful character in the post-Shroud multiverse, because he has all the powers of the multiversal singular Unicron, and the multiversal singular Unicron doesn't exist anymore. I think the logical continuation of this would be for Unicron to go around the multiverse and restoring any dead universes that might exist in the multiverse. This is the far future. Time works weird in the multiverse. We could, for creative purposes, we could say maybe all the Transformers are dead in the other universes as well. But this could be the natural conclusion to the multiverse. A multiverse in the far deep future where nobody even remembers what a Cybertronian is. And it's a benevolent Unicron bringing life back to the multiverse. And, you know, Untight has the power to raise the dead. Unicron also does that. So who's to say if Unicron and Untight might just bring all the dead Transformers back from the dead? Who knows? There is a lot this story could go down, and I don't think they need to show us anything. Like, I'm speculating here. I'm not saying that the story will... I'm not saying they're going to release a manga that will show this happening. That would be really weird. But I think as lore fans of, you know, this channel, we're lore fans, right? I think we're used to the fact that we have to, you know, piece things together ourselves. And if there's an option like this on the table, I think it's logical to say that Unicron might, you know, never on screen, never on page, but he might, you know, revive the multiverse in some way, shape, or form. A peaceful multiverse. A multiverse where everyone's died from energy crisis and they're coming back, learning to, you know, live with each other once more. There is no more Primus, at least not a Primus that's as powerful as this Unicron, but Unicron has become a force for good. And I think this is a very poetic ending for the multiverse, because think about it. How did the multiverse start? Or how did what I'm saying is, how did the story of the multiverse start? Not how the concept started. How did the story start? The One created one guy, and remember, Uni in Unicron means one, right? That's a Latin prefix. Unicron was created as the only explorer from the One to explore the multiverse. And yes, that was the multiversal singular Unicron, but there's a lot that suggests that, you know, even the Primacronian Unicron is a reflection of that Unicron. And I think it'll be very poetic if, at the end of the day, the multiverse ends with a multiverse filled with life, a multiverse at peace, and with the only real major, it's not really a singularity, but the cross-universe character that's holding everything in place is a redeemed Unicron. A Unicron that has Leo Prime and Primus inside him helping to guide him. A Unicron that's experienced death pretty much as tens of thousands of years inside Earth. As a multiverse fan, I was always worried that the Transformers Multiverse story would not have the conclusion, that would feel like a conclusion, and with the Shroud it felt like we would never get any sort of closure. But frankly, I think this end of the G1 universe, even though it's supposed to be an ending to the G1 universe and not the multiverse, it feels like the proper conclusion to the multiversal story. One guy sent by the One to observe creation, or to put it back in its place. He has a desire to not just observe, but also to prevent death. And at the end of the day, the Theomachy existed to create a balance. And now Unicron has a bit of Primus in him. The balance has been achieved. And this is sort of a time period that we can say all are one. So I think this manga is a very beautiful ending to Transformers. At least the multiversal side of things. I don't know, I just thought I would like to share that story with you. I do want to make a Transformers lore episode fully covering the series in my usual narrative style. But I just wanted to talk about the implications that story had for the multiverse in this Transformers Talks video. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure you follow me on social media, especially my new Twitter. Link is in the description. And yeah, have a great day, ladies and gentlemen. Can't believe Unicron saved the multiverse.
Cara